Hello everyone, this is Buddha Zen Wisdom, here to accompany you daily with insights and guidance. Today, we are diving into a topic that may not immediately strike you as profound or life-changing, but has implications for your health, well-being, and the health of your loved ones. Yes, we are talking about the seemingly mundane act of washing dishes, or, more accurately, the bad habits that many of us have when it comes to dishwashing and how they can silently impact our lives. Now, you may be wondering, why should I care about dishwashing? Isn't it just a household chore? Well, let me tell you a story to set the stage for today's discussion. This is the story of Mrs. Margaret Harris, a retired grandmother who, like many of us, took great pride in her home-cooked meals and her ability to bring the family together around the dining table. Margaret's grandson, a lively boy who adored her cooking, started experiencing frequent stomachaches and bouts of diarrhea. At first, Margaret chalked it up to school lunches or perhaps a passing bug. But the issues persisted, and soon the family grew concerned. A visit to the doctor revealed a surprising culprit. The dishes Margaret so lovingly washed and stacked in her cabinet were harboring harmful bacteria. You see, Margaret, like so many of us, had some dishwashing habits that she didn't think twice about. She used the same sponge for months, assuming that a quick rinse would suffice to keep it clean. She sometimes left dishes soaking in the sink overnight, thinking it would make them easier to clean the next morning. And like many of us, she believed that as long as the dishes looked clean, they were clean. Little did she know that these small oversights were putting her grandson's health at risk. So today, I want to dive deeply into this topic. We'll explore the 5 worst dishwashing habits that doctors warn about, habits that could be turning your kitchen into a breeding ground for bacteria and even contributing to long-term health risks. I'll share insights from research, practical solutions, and stories like Margaret's to help you make simple changes that can have a big impact on your family's health. Let's get started. Why dishwashing habits matter more than you think. Let's begin by addressing the question, why does this matter? Isn't eating healthy food enough to ensure good health? The short answer is no. While eating nutritious food is critical, it's only part of the equation. The cleanliness of the dishes, utensils, and cookware that come into direct contact with your food is equally important. Think of it this way, even the freshest, healthiest salad can become a health hazard if it's served on a plate that harbors bacteria or chemical residues. In recent years, there's been a concerning rise in the incidence of foodborne illnesses and even certain types of cancer linked to poor hygiene practices in the kitchen. According to data, an average kitchen sponge contains over 350 species of bacteria, including harmful pathogens like E. coli and Salmonella. These bacteria can transfer to your dishes and, ultimately, to your food. Over time, repeated exposure to these toxins can burden your immune system and even contribute to chronic illnesses. So, let's take a closer look at the 5 worst dishwashing habits and what you can do to break them. Habit 1. Using the same sponge or dishcloth for too long. The humble kitchen sponge. It's a workhorse, tackling grease, grime, and food particles day in and day out. But did you know that your sponge could also be the dirtiest item in your kitchen? Studies have shown that sponges can harbor more bacteria than a toilet seat, a shocking thought, isn't it? Over time, these bacteria multiply, creating a microbial hotspot that can spread germs every time you use the sponge. Margaret's story is a perfect example. She had been using the same sponge for 6 months, thinking it was still in good condition. But what she didn't realize was that the sponge had become a reservoir for bacteria. Every time she wiped down her plates and utensils, she was inadvertently spreading these germs. What can you do? Replace your sponge every 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how frequently you use it. Better yet, consider using antibacterial scrubbers or quick-drying brushes that are less prone to bacterial growth. You can also sanitize your sponge by boiling it in water or microwaving it, dampened, for 1 minute. Just be careful to avoid any metal parts. Habit 2. Letting dirty dishes pile up. We've all been there. After a long day, the last thing you want to do is tackle a sink full of dirty dishes. So, you leave them for later, perhaps overnight, thinking it won't make much of a difference. But here's the thing, leaving dirty dishes sitting in the sink creates the perfect environment for bacteria and mold to thrive. This is especially true during warm weather when food residues ferment more quickly. Dirty dishes can also attract pests like flies and ants, which can further contaminate your kitchen. And let's not forget about the unpleasant odors that can develop, making your kitchen less inviting. What can you do? Try to wash dishes immediately after meals. If that's not possible, at least rinse them thoroughly to remove food residues. And if you must soak dishes, limit the soaking time to an hour or two at most. Remember, standing water is a breeding ground for bacteria. Habit 3. Overusing dish detergent. Dish soap is a staple in every kitchen, but more isn't always better. In fact, using excessive amounts of detergent can leave chemical residues on your dishes, especially if they're not rinsed thoroughly. Over time, ingesting these residues, even in small amounts, can strain your liver and kidneys and may contribute to long-term health issues. Margaret's daughter pointed out that her mother often used too much detergent, thinking it would make the dishes cleaner. But in reality, this habit was introducing unnecessary chemicals into their meals. What can you do? Use dish detergent sparingly. Follow the manufacturer's guidelines for the recommended amount, and always rinse your dishes thoroughly. For light grease, consider using natural alternatives like baking soda or vinegar, which are effective and chemical-free. Habit 4. Neglecting hard-to-reach areas. When we wash dishes, it's easy to focus on the most visible parts and overlook the edges, bottoms, and undersides. However, these areas can harbor grease and food particles that may not be immediately visible. Over time, this can lead to cross-contamination when dishes are stacked or used. Margaret admitted that she often skipped cleaning the undersides of plates and bowls, assuming they didn't need as much attention. But these neglected areas can become breeding grounds for bacteria. What can you do? Take your time when washing dishes. Pay attention to all parts of the dish, including the undersides and rims. Use small brushes or scrubbing tools for detailed cleaning, and consider running dishes through a dishwasher for added sanitation. Habit 5. Storing dishes while they're still wet. Finally, let's talk about one of the most common mistakes, storing dishes before they're fully dry. This habit creates a damp environment in your cabinets, which can encourage mold and bacteria to grow. Wooden utensils are particularly susceptible to mold, which can produce harmful toxins like aflatoxins, potent carcinogens. Margaret's grandson's doctor explained that improper drying could have been a contributing factor to the bacteria found on their dishes. It was a wake-up call for Margaret, who had always assumed that air drying in a cabinet was sufficient. What can you do? Always dry your dishes thoroughly before storing them. Use a drying rack in a well-ventilated area and allow dishes to air dry completely. For added safety, sanitize dishes periodically by boiling them or running them through a dishwasher's high-temperature cycle. The bigger picture, health starts in the kitchen. As we wrap up today's discussion, I want to emphasize that the health of your family starts with the simple, everyday habits you practice in your kitchen. Margaret's story serves as a reminder that small changes can have a big impact. By breaking these 5 bad dishwashing habits, you can protect your loved ones from foodborne illnesses and create a safer, healthier home. So, the next time you reach for that sponge or stack those dishes in the cabinet, take a moment to consider the practices we've discussed today. After all, health begins in the kitchen, and a clean plate is the foundation of a healthy meal.